3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. We are coming to the end of the year, and therefore season 3 of our little show. And what a year it has been.
What a year it has been, right?
It's been crazy. So if you listen to our little podcast, you know that we've been, obsessed with a little show called Andor. Yes.
There we go.
All the way from the premiere to season finale, episode 12, which was what a ride. But we never talked about where Cassian Andor came from. Rogue One, that first independent standalone Star Wars story. That
I thought you were going to say independent film. I was like, that is definitely not an independent film. Although technically all the prequels were indie films because George financed them himself. So, but not Rogue One. Rogue One was definitely financed by a massive multinational corporation called Disney. So it is not an indie film, but it is an independent film. Actually, is it though? Because it leads right into A New Hope.
Directly into A New Hope. I know, but it still has the Astor story under it. It doesn't have the crawl. It's not part of the Nine. So it's
Nine. That's like the Nine. You said the Nine, I'm just like immediately Lord of the Rings. And it's like
right,
riding out of Mordor.
Yeah.
Find Frodo in the ring.
That's a good image. So that's completely fine.
It is. It's true.
So we can't really talk about Andor without talking about Rogue One. Rogue One was this unexpected, beautiful film that deserves all the credit that it gets, and it holds up these few years later. Diego somehow pulls off, playing a younger character, even as he's aged since.
I think he looks better now, actually, than he did in Rogue One. But I think though, like it's all fine and dandy, right? That we're going to talk about Rogue One. However, something did happen this week that we weren't expecting, but it was a blessing, and it just dropped onto our laps like manna from the sky. It was, and it's a completely good allegory to make this biblical thing, because the thing that dropped was of biblical proportions, and it is the trailer for Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny. Holy crap! What a title! What a title! Oh my God! I was not expecting it. There were the rumblings. I don't know what the convention was, but Lucasfilm was presenting it. I think it was in Brazil.
I think so.
And they dropped that trailer, and it was everything that I wanted and more.
I remember you were like praying for it to actually drop, and then it did, and you're like, I'm crying. We
have been blessed by the Lucasfilm overlords. But I was surprised more than the trailer dropping by you actually watching it, because you are a staunch I do not watch trailers person. So what happened there? What made you watch? What made you want to watch it?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was kind of your reaction. You were all like, I'm tearing up at work. And I was like, there's no way it's that good. And then, the whole thing with Twitter happened about comparing like our boy Brasso from Andor with Indiana Jones, and the joy that we get from, beating up Nazis. So
which apparently now it's controversial apparently to say that like punching Nazis it's a bad thing. Now apparently there's people saying that like, they're not such bad people after all. And it's like, but
you know what?
I was awake that day in history class. Clearly those people were not awake that day, or was out sick. No. But maybe you should go back through your notes and see that objectively, and it's not a matter of opinion, Nazis are bad.
It's historical fact. Yeah.
Nazis are bad, and Indiana Jones punches them, and that is a good thing.
And so does Brasso.
So it
was like all of that going on, and then I was like, I want to watch it. I love Indiana Jones. I'm a big fan. Every time they come on TV, I just sit down and watch them in their entirety. I just can't help it. Even with the commercials, even if it's on cable, I don't care. I just do it, and I they're great. Even the fourth one, which has gotten like terrible raps and all of that. It's actually really fun, regardless.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember when I would say that years ago, and all you little naysayers would laugh at me. And now look who's coming around. Look who's coming around.
The Spielberg's need to add in aliens into everything that he does.
That was George Lucas. That was 100% George Lucas.
Yeah. Well, so at that point, I was like, "Oh, you lost me there. Why did you do that?" But there's still a lot of fun in that movie. So whatever. It doesn't have to be,
I agree.
Earth-shattering, life-changing for it to be fun. So when they announced that they were actually,
I like it more than Temple of Doom. There, I said it.
Temple of Doom is actively kind of terrible. But
I don't like Temple of Doom. I know some people go hard and say that that's their favorite one, but I'm like, I don't like that one. I don't. I'm sorry.
Well, Temple of Doom, there's something about it that I like because it used to freak me out when I was a kid. That one specifically just freaked me out. So for some reason, now as an adult, I enjoy it because it freaks me out as a kid. I don't know. It's strange.
I don't know. For me, it's just like, yeah, it did freak me out as a kid, and that's why I didn't enjoy it, I think. But like now rewatching it, I just I don't like how they portrayed I forgot her name, but Indy's love interest, she's very damsel in distress. Like we had Marion, who's very very Leia,
badass,
in the sense of being very independent and watching out for herself, even though then Indiana Jones has to rescue her, but whatever. But at least she's characterized a little bit more progressively.
Which a good thing, again, for Crystal Skull, that they brought Marion back, which I thought was the best one.
Yes.
So,
and then really Temple of Doom kind of regrets that with having more of the cliche, feminine, hysterical, damsel in distress characters. And I didn't dig that. Obviously, the representation of in the people of India is kind of trouble.
Offensive.
Kind of offensive. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's cool things in that movie. I'm not gonna take that away.
It was a different time.
But then obviously, the whole sequence,
Last Crusade was always, and then
that was my favorite. That's my favorite one.
Oh,
that's my favorite one. I love Last Crusade, and it's probably my favorite because that's the one I grew up with watching the most when I was young. I loved it. That was
Last Crusade is great.
I mean, I do think Raiders is better, but I prefer watching Last Crusade.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think sometimes I'm full Raiders is my favorite one, and then other times I go for Last Crusade. I think it depends on my mood, but those two are arguably equally as good. Honestly, it's just
and Last Crusade, so Spielbergian would be the term, I guess, with the whole father-son relationships and trying to find that acceptance. Great, beautiful. Oh, and that's the end of that movie when he's like, Dad, I can get it, and then Sean Connery's just like, let it go. I mean, it's gets me every time. The
first time he actually calls him Indiana because he always just called him Junior, and it's acknowledging his choice of name.
You were named after the dog.
Clearly, today's not the day for this, but we have found that we need to talk about the Indiana Jones movie. So look forward to some episodes on that because clearly there's a lot.
It's going to become an indie podcast in the future. But what about those are the movies. We'll talk about them more in depth later. What did you think about the trailer, though? Did it live up to my tweeting hype?
It was better actually, because I think sometimes you overhype stuff.
Oh, we're running a podcast there.
I know. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to care that much. I am excited about Indiana Jones, but doing another one, and then it was so good. It was so good. I mean, you can already tell they did a really good job with the de-aging, which I was not expecting. I was not expecting to see so much adventure and I don't know, so much nostalgia and love for the previous ones, I miss the desert and I miss our adventures. And, you have the sequence on the train and everything looks so beautiful. And then when the score crescendos towards the end, it's like, you got me.
Yeah, I was just I'm at work and I'm just literally tearing up. I'm like, I can't do this work, man.
It is arguably one of the best scores of all time. And the nostalgia is like a punch to the face. And they paired it with him grabbing the hat and everything, and it's so good. And then that scene where he's using the whip and then everybody has a gun and it's taking back shit, I should have learned this from Raiders. They're using it against me. Duck.
That's exactly. It's the inverse of that scene, which I love. It was so good.
So it looks like it's kind of, aside from being its own thing, it's going to be kind of an homage to Indiana Jones in general, which I am all for.
Yeah. 100%. I was a little worried. I mean, not that I don't think that the director's good or anything, but having a different director, James Mangold, do this movie, I was like afraid that like, oh well, it's like really gonna be, indie without Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, even though like Steven Spielberg's obviously involved as a producer, but like I was just like, well, is it gonna be Indiana Jones if it doesn't look like Indiana Jones? Because Spielberg has a very, specific aesthetic of how his films look. But god damn, when that trailer started, like it just looks, it looks different because it's a different director, but it still feels like
it's still
Indiana Jones. It's modern, but it's still it still has that like old school, adventure aesthetic that the old ones had. So like I'm very very excited.
And as we've learned from Rogue One and now Andor, having somebody like Tony Gilroy, who isn't necessarily like the super fan and somebody who brings in a new vision, is a good thing for a franchise. So having somebody with maybe a little bit of a different vision, it'll be really good for Indiana Jones. We'll see.
And we have like a bunch of like really cool people. I mean, not just the man Harrison Ford himself, but we have Antonio Banderas, which is gonna be. I'm very curious to see what his character will be doing. But we also have one of my contemporary favorites, Mads Mikkelsen, as Nazi. So he's gonna get punched probably, or have his face melted. We'll see. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, she's pretty dope. She's already in the Lucasfilm family because she was L3 in the Solo movies. So like, it's really happy to see her take the companion role from Shia LaBeouf, because even though I am an apologist for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that is a good movie.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. It is good. It's better than Temple of Doom. I'll fight anyone. But one of the bad things about that movie that I will admit was Shia LaBeouf. I was not a fan of his character. And so she already, like in that trailer, she already looks considerably better than he was. And so I'm just happy. It's not those, the movie can be a turd, but going back to the movies to see Indiana Jones, it's just fun. It's like it's pizza. Even a bad pizza is still pizza. You just enjoy it. And that's one of the things about some of these franchises. They're comforts. It's just like, you feel like a kid again. And like when I saw that trailer, I felt like a kid. I still kind of feel like a kid when I'm thinking about the trailer. So like I can't wait to just sit in a big screen in a dark room.
I know.
And just and see Harrison Ford, 80 feet tall. And it's gonna be amazing. But that's Indiana Jones. We'll talk about it later in 2023. When we transform the podcast from a Star Wars Plus podcast to an Indiana Jones Plus podcast.
Time.
We'll do our deep dives into each of the, that's a good idea. Each of the films gets an episode.
Yeah.
But until then, we're still a Star Wars podcast, and we're still in our post-ANDOR depression days. So we've talked about all of the episodes for Andor, but we've like you mentioned, we hadn't talked about Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
We never talked about Rogue One on this podcast, and actually, that's a blessing in disguise because now we get to talk about Rogue One with the context of Andor, which I think it's a really interesting way to now start deconstructing that movie, which is a movie that I think.
It sounds a little bit like it was Kismet, because we had talked about doing a Rogue One episode multiple times, and for a bunch of reasons, it just kept getting postponed, and now here we are. And Rogue One is one of the interestingly few Lucasfilm releases that is the least controversial. I think many people, if not most people, people are different than fans. I think most people are like most Star Wars. Fans are the ones that are a little toxic in like how they like or not like some of the media. But I think among the fans, like Rogue One, I think is considered to be the only good thing Disney has done. Although now with Mandalorian, some of those opinions have changed, I guess. But Rogue One from the movies, solid, loved it. Everyone says it's amazing, even though some people say that the CGI on Tarkin and Leia is bad. I disagree. I think it looks amazing. But I love that movie. What was before like we talk about how Andor might or might not have changed our perspective on Rogue One. What did you think when you saw it in theaters for the first time? What were your expectations for that? Because it was like the first, spin-off movie. It's like, oh shit, like this is a movie that's outside of the saga. It's not one of the 9.
It's not.
When they announced it, I was confused. I didn't understand why they were investing so much into a Star Wars film about a topic that I didn't care to know about, because we know they all die. Um, we've been, in this timeline before, so I don't really need something that happens like at the beginning of A New Hope, So I was just like,
to show how much we know.
I was really confused. And obviously, being the Star Wars fan that I am, I of course went and saw it in theaters, as we do.
Yeah. I don't care for this. I hate it. Let me be the first in line.
Paying for it like on the day it comes out, and it blew me away. I was not expecting it, which makes that even more enjoyable when you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to like it anyway. And then you're just like, wow, that was so good. That was so good. And then
it was not bad. It was not bad by any means.
No, it was really good. And the fact that they got you caring so much about these characters and being in so much tension, knowing that they're all gonna die, it was masterful that they were able to pull it off. And it was, like you said about other, like you were talking about, like maybe what we're gonna get to see with Indiana Jones. This one, it looked different, but it was still Star Wars. And you felt like you were in a galaxy far, far away, but it was from a different angle. And it just made it more compelling. So I just left and I was like, I can't believe that just happened. And I think it's stayed as one of my top favorite Star Wars films.
Easy. Yeah. No content. I mean, I like most of the Star Wars movies. There's only like maybe 2 that I'm just like, I'm not too sure about these, but like, whatever. We're not. This is not the toxic Star Wars.
This is not yet.
This is the positive Rogue One minute.
What about you? Were you also confused?
No, I was always on board with Rogue One. I was like, let's go, let's do this. Because
Star Wars is good Star Wars.
Yeah, more Star Wars is good Star Wars, and obviously Diego Luna being part of the cast, and it's like, okay, this is gonna be dope. And one of the big marketing things about it was the whole thing that Andor took it to 11, right? It's just like there's no Jedi. This is just like soldiers, boots on the ground type of people. They're working for the rebellion. And like, okay, this is a new perspective that we haven't seen in the big screen, right? We've read books about that type of stuff, but we haven't seen it. So like having that perspective, I was ready for. And the trailer's just beautiful, like you were saying, and this is not a slight against the sequel trilogy. I mean, the sequel trilogy has like really good CGI, but it still feels like it's CGI. You know what I'm saying? It's still like at least to me, like
it doesn't feel as immersive.
It's good. It's excellent. Obviously, ILM is doing it, so like it's extremely good, but it still feels it feels CGI-y.
Yeah.
But like Rogue One, the visual effects there, the CGI actually looked like the models from the original trilogy. So for me, that really grounded it. I'm just like, oh, this feels hyper real, in a way that the sequel trilogy didn't. I think that's an aesthetic choice that they went with. So it's not a net positive for either. It's just something that attracted me to Rogue One, like how it was visually portrayed to us in those trailers. I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's go. And then I watched it in the movie theater, and I watched it with a couple of my coworkers. And there's only one of my coworkers. He's a little shit, and he was just like, "Well, I don't know about it." And it's like, "Okay, nerd, just go away." But like all of my other coworkers were just like, "Oh, it was amazing." I'm like, "Yes, it was," because especially like the space battle. I've always been a massive fan of the Return of the Jedi space battle at the end above Endor, and no movie in the Star Wars canon had been able to match it. Like there hadn't been like a really awesome space battle since Return of the Jedi. Not the prequels. I'm sorry for people that say that Revenge of the Sith had a good space battle. I disagree with you.
No, I disagree.
I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It wasn't Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry. But Rogue One, and Force Awakens didn't really have a space battle. It was in they were at Starkiller Base, so it wasn't in space. And it was a trench run. It wasn't a space battle, which is not a bad thing either. I'm just saying I want.
And Rise was terrible.
Well, Rice hadn't come out yet. It hadn't come out yet, so I can't. I can't. Apples to oranges at this point.
Okay.
But we're not here to talk about negativity.
I know.
It's the holidays.
Positive,
it's the
positive
holidays.
space.
We gotta be charitable and giving. But yeah, that's when I saw Space Battle and Rogue One. And obviously this is just a very superficial discussion of Rogue One because there's a lot of like depth, and that movie that we can get into later, especially when we compare it with Andor. But yeah, the spectacle of that movie like really blew my mind. The aesthetics of it blew my mind. So like I've been a Rogue One stan from day one, no pun intended. So yeah, like I think it's been excellent. I was like you in my cynicism with Andor, which we talked about before.
Okay.
It's just like, okay, well, we already got Rogue One. We saw Cassian. Like,
I don't need Andor.
How
wrong were you? I was excited about Andor.
I was not just wrong. I was completely fucking wrong. Because Andor, as we've been gushing about for the last 12 weeks, has been amazing. But yeah, that was my first impression of Rogue One. And that's a movie that I just like kept rewatching. But now I rewatched it with the context of Andor. Were you able to rewatch it like
I did,
post Andor? What did it change for you?
It did, because I think there was a lot of things about Andor himself that I hadn't picked up in other viewings, because since he's kind of not really, the main character, you're kind of tend to be way more focused on Jin's story. So he's just kind of a complement to her. So now it makes you think, what happened in between the end of that season and this Andor that we get here now? Because there were some things I remembered, about when he's complaining to her. It's like, oh, now you're in this? I've been in this for years. Like, you have no idea what I've sacrificed to be a part of this. Like, eres una neneteta, basically, is what he's saying to her. Oh, now you've been hiding from this your entire life, and now there's convenient for you. Now you decide that, oh, you're a force for change.
Which is interesting, because now it contextualized, like he's kind of lying. I mean, it's not that he hasn't been in a fight since he was 6 years old, but he wasn't committed to the rebellion. Right. He was running away from the rebellion. So it's in a way, he's kind of like retconning his own story in his mind. It's just like, well, now since I've been committed all the time. Actually, it's like, no, you're running away, my dude. So you can't be that judgy with Jin when you also have to go through your own journey.
Yeah. And I remember being kind of surprised when we watched that first episode of Andor, when he just shoots that one, crappy cop, and be like, wow, that was really fast. And because I had forgotten, I hadn't watched Rogue One in a couple of years. I forgot that he kills that one guy at the beginning. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Cassian was violent. Okay, that's good.
But see, I think that's the interesting thing. And now, though, it's for me, that scene will be answered more, I think, and when we watch season 2, when we see like what Andor goes through, committing to the rebellion and to seeing like him as the agent that we see right in that scene. But I think that's because he looks guilty, right? When he looks like, oh shit, I mean, I had to do it, but I don't feel too good about it.
And a lot of the comments that he says, you can tell that he has become bitter towards the rebellion. Like he wasn't expecting to have to sacrifice so much of himself. And I don't think he expected, maybe for as long as it had to happen, for them to continue to have to play dirty so much. So,
right. Well, and I think that's going to be the interesting thing now with season 2 is to see, because that's the Luthen side of it, right? Because now we're gonna go see the it's cliche, right? But the angel and the devil on your shoulders, and that's that's what Mon Mothma and Luthen are gonna be for Cassian moving forward in season 2. And to an extent, that's what we see in Rogue One, right? Was when they're going to Edu to like capture Galen. Mon Mothma is giving like the righteous instructions, right? So no, find him so we can get him and have him testify before the Senate.
And it's like kill him.
And then behind her back, like one of her generals, is like, I ignore what you just heard. You're gonna do this. So that's that's maybe the Luthen influence within the rebellion that's kind of like pushing to have more dark deeds in name of the rebellion. But
in the name of necessity,
I think it's eating up Cassian inside. It's just like I know I need to do this because I believe in the cause, but I think he's more righteous than that. and he has those self-doubts, and we see it there, right? When he's supposed to take out Galen, he's having those doubts all the time. So I think that's the interesting thing now, and I think
because now you can see that inner war with him. You can understand it more, because you can tell that he's become committed to the cause. So if they tell him to do something, he feels like it is necessary. But at the same time, he's been so worn down by what everything's happened to him that he's become disenchanted with the rebellion in a sense. Like, he needed somebody like Jin to come along and kind of get him to find his purpose again. It's like he's still committed, but he had lost his purpose, and then he found it again. Through Jin.
He doesn't have hope anymore.
Which is really interesting, because I remember I had said that, they always do the whole rebellions are built on hope, giving Jin the credit, but Cassian actually says it first. But when Cassian says it, he says it like in a sarcastic way. It's like, this is propaganda. Hope doesn't exist. He says it with like that tone behind it, that it's like, he knows that is true, but he's lost faith in it.
Right.
And then he gains that faith again through this film. And then it makes you think about, what was he thinking in that moment when he met Jin, somebody with purpose? Was he thinking about Marva? Was he thinking about what happened to her? Like, and now it just adds all these dimensions to the character that it reminds me of everything that we saw him suffer through season 1. And it kind of makes me want to, cry. And it's like, is he like behind people backtracking? Like, be more righteous. Listen to the manifesto. You're not following the manifesto.
No,
like,
but speaking of the manifesto, I forgot who made this post, but I saw someone on Twitter take a screenshot from Rogue One, and it's from that coat that he's wearing when they're in Jeddah, like the blue one with the fur. Someone took a screenshot of that, and he has like a little thing strapped to it, and someone's like, "Is that Nemec's manifesto?"
No,
that he's carrying around. And I was just like, "Oh Lord!" That I mean, maybe it wasn't when they designed it originally,
but now it could be
one. But now it's just like, how awesome would that be? And then I think that would be really. I mean, now we're speculation zone, like setting up our expectations. But what if we see responsible speculation? And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. But in season 2, see him have that same jacket and see him strap on the manifesto. I was thinking like, link everything together.
Yes.
Oh my God. Because that would be really good, because that would be like, even though he has no hope anymore for the rebellion, he still believes in it. And like him carrying Nemec's manifesto around, it's just such a poetic thing. It's like, I don't have hope, but I have belief, which are two different things, right? That would be good. I'm not saying that he is carrying the manifesto,
right?
But
it would be something amazing
if they confirm it. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind, because that would be incredible. But Rogue One, it's such a good movie too, because then it balances Cassian's grumpiness with then K2SO's sassiness, K2SO, Alan Tudyk, what a phenomenal character. Star Wars always delivering the goods on robot companions. K2SO, no exception to that rule. Amazing character, which like now again, his death, can we call it? Well, yeah, it's the death, because when he dies, they're like closing the doors, holding off the stormtroopers, and saying that climb now is recontextualized once again with Nemec's climb, which is so heartbreaking now. It's just like,
I know. There's so much in that film that I already loved to begin with, but watching it now with the context of Andor, it had me crying in so many random places, just because I would think about. Well, just the first time you see K2, honestly, just because it reminds me of B2 emo, and we still know that there's gonna maybe be a relation there somehow, but just the fact that it's like this the droid companion, and it just reminds me of B2 getting kicked.
No, don't remind me of that. And then Papa Bear Brasso going bananas protecting his sweet child. No.
Yeah, and
no
and
one
these
kicks
droids,
B2 emo. Yeah.
these droids, we've seen such loyalty from droids, R2 and C3PO, and there's no self-interest there. It's kind of, they're just, and it breaks my and that death scene, which you don't think about it that much when you first watch it because you're so focused on them actually getting the plans for the Death Star and being successful that it kind of, I don't know, it kind of falls by the wayside a little bit. But now it's, as soon as they enter the room, I was like, no, I don't want to watch this again. I don't want to watch this happen. just let him be happy. He's a nice droid with a great sense of humor, and just let him be. So
same, like I felt that way, like at the not necessarily with K. I mean, yeah, it broke my heart with K2 as so dies, but like I felt that with Cassian. It's like, just let characters just retire and go to the farm and and be happy and live out the rest of their lives. Why do we have to kill everyone that succeed? I mean, it's a ballsy move, right, to kill all of your cast, and I respect that a lot. But at the other hand, I'm just like, let them just retire.
I know,
and let them be happy.
Galen Erzo, which is, I think, one of the great things we've talked about that.
Oh boy, Mads Mikkelsen. See, we started talking about Mads in Indiana Jones.
Back
Rogue One. There we go. Bam.
Because one of the good things about Rogue One, and that they continued that tradition in Andor, is that both sides, they're not black and white. I feel like when we grew up with the originals, the Empire is all evil and the Jedi are all good. And then we see here that the rebellion has its dark side and the Empire has people that are actually trying to work against it from within. And then you get this character, Galen Erso, who like sacrifices everything to, try to get his daughter to survive. And then you believe that he turned when he was there, but he was working against the Empire the entire time, which I thought was a really cool way to explain, because I remember you take it at face value when you watch it as a kid, but then as you grow up, it's like, how convenient that the Death Star plans had this one random loophole, that could destroy the entire space station.
Really? Did you ever actually question that at any point in your life? I never questioned. It's like, it's there. Who cares?
I did. I was like, this is a little hard to believe. This is really
excessive. That's hard to believe. But Force ghosts, lightsabers, lifting.
That was hard to believe. Yeah,
that's easy to believe. But a big ass, what is it, 3 meter wide hole?
Yeah,
in a massive galactic.
But it bugged me. It bugged me for a long time.
Interesting. That's one of those things that I never cared about, never questioned. It's like, so it has an exhaust port. Some engineer just like had it, whatever. It's there. Who knows about space engineering?
But the fact that it was an on purpose sabotage.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying that
do it. Yeah.
I'm not. It does. I'm not taking away from Rogue One. I'm just saying that that
I'm worrying about
the questioning that some people had about it. I'm just like, that's, if you're focused on that, you're focused on the wrong parts of the movie. But thankfully, it gave us Rogue One. So I think there is a silver lining to
There's a redeeming value to it.
There is a redeeming value to obsessing over like why there's a 3 meter wide hole in a space station that will destroy it. Fine, I get it. And it was designed by Mads Mikkelsen, so that's cool.
And to see, that she's been yearning for her father, her whole life, and then she just gets that 1 second with him right before he dies, and that made me cry like a little bitch again. I mean, that scene, I don't remember it making me feel so emotional the first time around, but this time it did. So I don't know. It's surprising when movies
now it's parallel, right? So to Andor, Cassian, and Marva.
Yeah.
And at least she was able to be with her father there at the end, and Cassian didn't have the opportunity.
I know.
And that's a heartbreaking scene for me, with Cassian is told that Marva died, and then when he's talking to Brasso, he's like, I should have been there. Like I said that I wanted to be with her in case something happened. I wasn't there. And it's like, I understand.
Yeah, and the last conversation we had was a fight, and then the message that she left for him, that she could never be angry at him, not in that way.
Fiona Shaw, you acted the shit out of that.
Oh, she acted the shit out of Marva. But it is really surprising, and it feels very fulfilling when you watch a film that you've seen 100 times before, and it still, makes you cry, makes you see it from a different angle,
a different point of view. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
From a different point of view, yes. But yeah, so it's still amazing. People that are not interested in watching Andor, well, that's your loss, because the film is still good on its own. But I think Andor elevates it or at least my experience of it was elevated by, watching it post Andor.
Interesting, because for me, it didn't, like, I thought it was gonna be like, okay, it's gonna recontextualize so much, and then honestly, like, I gotta keep it 100, right? It didn't so much. Yeah, there were like some things that I'm like, okay, now I can see some of the building blocks in, but it wasn't earth shattering to me, right? And I think that will change with season two of Andor. I think the second season is gonna be a lot bigger in how it will start, I mean, and inherently so, it's designed to be that way, right? Like the first one is the origin story, in quotations, right?
And it's supposed to be, year
Cassian,
one,
right?
And then season 2 is supposed to go all the way.
And season 2, exactly. Season 2, like, Tony Gilroy has already said this, right? It will necessarily end at the beginning of Rogue One. I think season 2, at least for me, will help me have like a bigger shift in like how I perceive Rogue One than season 1 has. Not that season 1 hasn't started to, change things a little bit, but it wasn't like, it's like, oh, it's a completely different movie now. It's like, no, it's the same movie. It's the same movie.
No,
but with
that's
a little
not
bit,
what I meant. What I meant is like, I see it.
A little bit adobo there.
Yeah,
a little seasoning.
It's just because now things that I see remind me of stuff that happened in Andor. And since I have it so recent and I'm so sad that it's done, it kind of makes me think about those moments and kind of, I don't know.
When they introduce how K2 and Cassian meet, I think that's gonna be
big.
That'll be like,
yeah, that is.
Do you believe the theory of that K2 is B2 emo?
I don't know, because they have very different personalities.
They do. That's very true.
So
maybe he just got sassier when he got taller. Who knows?
And I mean, I think K2 is supposed to be a reprogrammed Imperial droid. So I don't know if maybe something happens to B2 emo, like physically,
protect him,
and then they merge like his CPU to reprogram the Imperial droid, and then that change. I mean, that is way overthinking it. I think
the problem with that, I think that would be interesting if they do that. I wouldn't be like opposed to it. My concerns with it though is that necessarily means that B2 dies. And I don't want my sweet boy to die. I want him to live with Papa Bear Brasso, like in a retirement home, and just be happy with him, and just because and I agree with what you're saying. Like B2 emo and K2 so have like completely different personalities. B2 emo, I think it was Alden, our friend Alden, who said this. Even if he didn't and someone else did, I'm sorry. But they were comparing that like B2 emo is more like a dog in the traditional sense of pet. He just wants, it's like a dog, right? And Wally, it's just like he's able to say what he thinks, and he's like a pet. It's like I want Marva, I want to do this. It's like he doesn't have like that. He's not like as like R2D2, has agency to be independent and do these things. Like, yes, R2D2 and C3PO and all these characters are more loyal, but like I think K2 is like more traditionally like that type of passive companion. So not the sassiness of K2SO, which is like a analytical droid that's gonna kick everyone's ass. So that's why
and straight up be like, I don't like you, I don't trust you, I don't. It's
K2 wouldn't do that. K2 would be he would like so B2 sorry
B2
wouldn't do that. So I don't know, maybe what you said, maybe when his CPU reprogramming meets the Imperial thing, it changes his personality, but I don't know. I do prefer the theory that he just lives a long, happy life with
B2 gets retired and keeps somebody else warm,
right?
And care for somebody else, because that you can tell that kind of B2's main purpose is to care for somebody and feel cared for, because you can tell that he misses Cassian whenever he comes back, and he's so alone now that he lost Marva. So
just give him a break. Give him a break. Don't throw my boy to war. Just make him.
Because we already know we're losing K2. We don't need to lose B2 at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. That would be heartbreaking, because then you're seeing two characters to an extent die, even if they're the same ones, still two different ones, because you got to see him as he was. And this is all assuming, right, that B2 becomes K2. which I
No.
let's go with no. We don't believe that.
Let's go with no.
We don't believe that one.
Just to protect our fragile little hearts. Just to protect.
We already see it happen with L3 and the Millennium Falcon on Solo, and we didn't like it then. So let's
that was kind of slavery.
That was involved. Yeah, that was like if someone, you know how you can get a DNR, do not resuscitate, and someone resuscitates you type of thing. You're violating that person's free will and wishes, and that's what happened to L3. She wanted to. It's all about droid liberation and droid rights, and then they're like, well, we need your brain, so screw you. So
I'm making you my slave instead.
Right, and now you're just gonna live in perpetuity in this machine to like work, do our whims now. So I don't know how the writer of that movie. I mean,
why Lawrence ever do that?
Oof. Lawrence Kasdan and Jake, I think, or Jason is his son, who wrote the films. Like, they're brilliant screenwriters. So I don't know like how that one kind of slipped through the cracks. I'm just like, that's the implication.
And how did nobody say like, dude, that is not okay?
Yeah,
it's just terrible. Don't do that.
Well, because I think they were thinking about it from a different angle. It's just like, oh, it's clever because this is how the Millennium Falcon is so cool. But it's just like, but then the moral implication of doing that quote unquote cool thing is just like, yeah, because now the Millennium Falcon is actually is this person that we like, and now it's just like, well, that's a colonizer thing to do. It's like, oh, you're justifying my bad reasons. Anyway, we're talking about Rogue One, not Solo. We'll talk about Solo some other time because we haven't talked about Solo.
We haven't. You're right.
Standalone. Okay. So maybe if they finally do the Lando Disney Plus show, maybe we can do the same thing. We watch the Lando Disney Plus show and then watch Solo to recontextualize it. But that's a big if, because we don't know if that show is still on the agenda for Lucasfilm. But Rogue One, still good. But hopefully, maybe do a part 2 of this episode
after
season 2 of Andor shows up. So it'll be the exact same episode but modified.
Because then it's like, oh, we were totally wrong. This didn't happen this way. It was this way, because we are wrong all the time.
Right. Maybe it's not Nemec's manifesto. Maybe it's the manifesto that the guy that shows up in the next season that tells him to climb too. And it's just like, see, we were wrong. It's not that manifesto. It's this other one.
Yeah, no, but credit where credit's due. I mean, Rogue One, without it, we wouldn't have had the magic that has been Andor. And Rogue One,
I was going to agree completely. And one of the cool things about, because before Rogue One came out, there were a lot of articles on the web and lots of drama about all the behind the scenes things that were happening, especially with all the reshoots that the movie went through at the end. Because like we know that Tony Gilroy wasn't involved in Rogue One until the end, when they brought him in to rewrite some stuff and direct like some new scenes and redo the ending. So thanks to the drama with that happened in Rogue One, we were blessed with Tony Gilroy coming
into Star Wars
to quote unquote fix the movie. And thanks to that experience, now we have Andor. So see, everything, like Bob Ross would say, it's happy little accidents. So the fact that like there was production issues during Rogue One is the reason that now we have the amazing show that is Andor. So everything has a silver lining, and the movie's still good. Tony did save it.
Yeah. Beauty sometimes can come from chaos.
Yes.
This proves
100%.
it. And I mean, the film itself holds up. It's still gorgeous. I mean, the how they chose the set pieces. I mean, all these, like we've talked about before, sometimes they are so like one dimension about the planets where all the action happens, and here Scarif and everything else, and now we get Scarif was added into the Lego movie, which was so good to use this as the setting. And
now when I go back to Puerto Rico next week, which I haven't been back home in a year, so I'm very excited to be there and to be there for a long time. So looking forward to that. But now
get some beaches.
Home, it's just like we're in Scarif. We can pretend Puerto Rico is also like a Star Wars location. But Puerto Rico is also a location in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. There's a bunch of scenes in that movie that were filmed in our lovely, beautiful island. Unfortunately, they never say it is, but now you do. Anyway, but Rogue One. What is there to say that hasn't been said about that movie? There will be next. Well, actually, not next year because they're filming Andor now.
I think
so it'll come out 2024. So we need to wait. We need to wait a bit before we do part 2 of this episode.
It's gonna be a long wait. It's gonna make me sad, but it's great because it gives me time then to re-watch the entire season of Andor and get all hyped up for it. And then we still have Bad Batch and Mando season 3 and
Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. I don't know if Acolyte's gonna be out by the time Andor's ready to come out. But there's gonna be a lot. There's a lot of Star Wars coming down. So it's a good time. We have the High Republic phase 2, which just started. I just finished Path of Deceit, and that was an excellent YA book by Tessa and Justina. Convergence is the next one that a lot of people have already read it because they get the ARCs, and for some reason Del Rey does not want to send me books. I don't know what I have to do. It's like we went to the premiere. We were at the podcast stage. Star Wars retweets us. It's like,
give me some books.
Send me a book. What do I have to do? Like, I have to start a movie.
Read. Come on.
I have to start a movie for you to send me a book. But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not salty about it at all. But yeah, Convergence. Already came out, but I'm gonna read that soon, and that's gonna be awesome. High Republic is amazing. So we got that in publishing. Like I said, Bad Batch is coming out January 4th, so we'll be back with our weekly reviews, and it'll start to get tricky because then March 1st we got Mando season 3. There's gonna be a little double dipping between Bad Batch and Mando season 3, so our schedules are gonna start getting a little crazy. But that's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good problem to have too much.
It's a lot.
A lot of Star Wars. I wouldn't say too much. It's a lot, but I wouldn't say too much. I mean, we'll see when that happens. Then we got, I think Ahsoka's the next one on the pipeline. I think Skeleton Crew, like I already mentioned, with Jude Law. There's a lot of good stuff. I don't think there's good stuff. I don't think we'll get a movie. I think a movie is 2025, the earliest. So we're gonna have to live in the small screen for the time being, except for Indiana Jones, which will be on the big screen.
Well, as long as we keep getting quality stuff like Andor,
and we got Willow. We got Willow. I mean,
we got Willow.
I don't know if you were able to see the first 2 episodes. I haven't
seen it yet. I have
delightful.
Finals coming up. I am running out of time.
Did you ever? I don't know if I asked you. Did you?
I remember watching the original when I was a kid, and I remember loving it, but I don't remember it.
Have you? Oh, so you haven't seen it?
Yeah, I haven't rewatched it since because I think it was really hard to find until like Disney Plus happened. I don't remember. Yeah. So before that, I don't remember that being one of those films that were like accessible. So.
Well, I had never seen it growing up, so like I had no idea what to expect. So I actually saw it the day before the episodes dropped. I'm like, okay, let's see it because I need to watch new movies anyway. Because I try to watch 100 new movies a year, so I'm gonna hit that. I'm gonna hit the goal this year. So I always thought the movie sucked. I was like, well, this looks terrible. But then I saw the movie. I was like, hey, there's some campy stuff and whatnot. But that's the point, though. It's fantasy for like a younger audience. So like I was like, hey, I get it. It's cool, and like has some really cool special effects, especially for the time. So then going to see the episodes, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, hey, this is a lot of fun. It's not
good.
It's not Rings of Power. It's not House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones. Not that type of fantasy. So
it's different.
Because I think that's the problem some people have with content nowadays. If it's like once they see something that's like mature, and I use that word with trepidation, right? They think that that's the only way to like watch media now. Like with Andor, like everyone's like, oh, I don't want to watch any Star Wars that's not the quality of Andor. It's just like there's space for so much types of storytelling. It's just like
well, and there's like a crap thing also that happens. Oh, if it's too mature, it doesn't like not everybody can watch it, or if it's too this or that. That's stupid because let's talk about animation. Animation in Star Wars. Oh, it's supposed to be geared for kids. but it still has a lot of really mature themes.
Exactly.
There are things about Andor that seem pretty mature, but I was on a podcast, father and son galaxy. Keith is like 9 years old and he was spitballing like all these things about
Keith is a hero. He's a hero.
Mm-hmm. So follow Father Son Galaxy as well.
They're amazing. They're the true celebrities of the Star Wars
fandom. He's a 9-year-old kid who is actively enjoying the show. So just because you think, oh, it's not necessarily geared to this audience, just because you take something from it different doesn't mean that somebody else cannot appreciate it for different reasons.
Right.
So
that's what Mando is. That's what Bad Batch will be. It's all different flavors in the galaxy far, far away, and like I'm here for all of it because like we can coexist, right? And Willow's the same thing. Willow is it's fantasy, but it's like more, I would say, like YA fantasy because it's like it's more shifted to like a younger demographic. So there's more jokes and quirkiness, and I thought it was great. Like I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Especially as someone who did not grow up with Willow, I was just like, hey, I get it. I think it's a.
I get why people like it. Yeah.
I get why people like it. And so I think after having seen the movie the day before, I was like, okay, I see where it comes from. I see where you're going with the series. So definitely a recommend on that one.
Good.
Willow is great. It's fun. It's like one of those. It's like Wednesday. I don't know if you've been watching Wednesday on Netflix.
I only watched like the first episode yesterday, and I'm hooked. But I can't watch it yet because finals. But
I haven't finished Wednesday. But yeah, it's just like it's not a show that's gonna rock my world.
It's not, but there's good elements to it because it's all these nostalgic characters. Music by Danny Elfman. Catherine Zeta-Jones is amazing. The fact that Christina Ricci is in it.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Is great. The Thing got an upgrade. Like the Thing
looks amazing. Yeah. But that's my point. Like not every show has to be like, oh my god, massive. A show can just be fun too. And Willow is definitely a lot of fun. So definitely recommend that one. Anyway, that's a big tangent from Rogue One. But anyway, I think we'll have a lot more to say about Rogue One on the next one after season 2 drops. But for now, I think those are my final thoughts. Did you have any closing arguments?
I will say I was not expecting the Vader hallway scene.
True. I was avoiding that because we wanted to keep it grounded.
I know, grounded in the, but I mean, you got to mention it because it was a thing.
Papa Vader, being terrifying.
Being actively terrifying, which I don't think we truly got in the prequel, so I was really excited to see. But I still think there was a better interpretation of Vader in the Obi-Wan show. That could be controversial. Whatever.
It's absolutely true.
But it's true.
I 100% agree with that statement.
Yep. So if you want to listen to our analysis, we have analysis on the Obi-Wan episodes as well.
Wonderful. If you don't want to listen to the episode by episode ones, we have a great recap with Alex and Molly Damon from Star Wars Explained
about the season.
That one about the season. So listen to that one. It's great. It's great. I've never listened to it, but I was there, and from what I remember, it was pretty good. But yeah. I think that's it for today.
That is definitely it for today. We're looking forward to more Star Wars content. We are looking forward for this year to finally end. And even though winter has begun, I live in Puerto Rico. This is coming over soon.
Oh yeah.
Beach time. Sorry for all of you out there.
Hey, come visit. Come visit us.
You're welcome. We're nice people.
We are very nice. We'll take you. We'll drive you around for a price.
Yeah, exactly. Get some drinks, go to the beach. But yeah, I think this is it. Our schedule is going to be a little bit crazy because I have finals soon. So we'll let you know when we're releasing new stuff. But don't worry, we are not going anywhere. We are Triad of the Force. You can find us anywhere that podcast can be found. Just search for Triad of the Force anywhere. Find us. We have some cool t-shirts. Just like, subscribe, leave us some comments. And until next time, may the Force be with you.